Welcome, CEOs. I am Hermione Olivia, and I invite you to cherish every opportunity to connect the dots. CEO Yourself was created as a destination for motivation and to inspire you wherever you are on your journey to become the CEO of your life. Coming up on this week's episode of CEO Yourself. How have you nurtured that community, not just of customers, but you have the most loyal influencer community.
Yeah.
You know, every season I see the same influencers posting about you, and in a really loving way. You know, they're not just posting the brand, they're really heroing you. How have you built that community on top of everything else that you're doing?
I think that is like one of our strongest parts of the brand. I didn't begin the brand with a lot of money or a lot of investment. Everything was on a shoestring.
Tash de Savary is the founder and director of de Savary, the luxury women's outerwear brand. Together we explore the realities of having a brand, relaunching a brand, and chasing the elusive idea of balance as a working mother. On today's episode of CEO Yourself, we explore her complete rebrand and deep dive her CEO superpower, Tenacity. Tash, welcome to CEO Yourself.
Thanks for having me.
It's so wonderful to have you here. I have watched your brand over the past few years with such respect, but to see the way that you did your rebrand last year is the reason why I wanted you on the podcast today, because having a brand is exceptionally difficult, and I know that from experience. And there are so many of our listeners out there who have brands and who watch brands like yours seemingly go from strength to strength. So I want to hear the story and unpack it and hear the highs and lows, but let's start with the rebrand. How and why did that come to fruition? What was your vision? Tell us everything.
So, I mean, I had on my mind to rename it for years because my business partner who I started the business with hasn't been in the business for many years now. But it was difficult because we were in Harrods, and I feel like every year we got more followers, people got to know us. So I didn't want to get lost by changing the name. And then I was like, what do I change the name to? And it was basically last year in about March, I sat down with someone who I highly respect. She's well known in fashion and media. And she wanted to ask all about the business. And I was telling her, and she was very honest. And she said, I think you need to rename it. I think that your current branding is basically putting a ceiling on what you can, on the potential of the brand. And it wasn't representing the quality of the product. And I think that was the light bulb moment I needed. I needed someone to tell me and kind of cement what I wanted to do. But then you have to, it's kind of very scary because Jane and Tash was not a failing brand. It was growing every year. So, I mean, is it the right decision? Are you going to get lost? Are you going to lose your customers? Those are all the things that were going through my head. But then someone else said, you know, it doesn't have to be broken to fix it. And so once I made that decision, it was kind of all go last year with the rebrand, and there was just so much to do.
I think it was such a successful rebrand because, as I said, I had followed your brand and it had been there kind of in the subconscious, but that moment you really made a splash. And I feel that you did exactly what that initial woman had said to you. I feel like you put the brand in a new category.
Yeah.
I feel like you leveled it up and you elevated it, and it took a lot of bravery.
Yeah.
So for the listener out there who has had a brand for many years, what would your advice be about taking the plunge and making a major shift like this?
I think obviously it's a big decision. You have to really think kind of long and hard about it. And I had a clear vision because I knew my product so well and I knew my customer. And I had sort of this aesthetic vision through mood boarding and everything like that. I knew what I wanted to look like. I didn't know what I wanted to call it. De Savary was I was almost actually initially kind of against De Savary because I didn't know if I wanted my name on it, my surname, and also it was my married name. So I felt like I almost had to, even though I've been married to my husband and with my husband for many years, almost ask permission. Can I kind of call it that? That was a bit scary as well for me. But I feel like if you want to do it, you've just got to go for it. But you have to allow yourself a lot of time because there's a lot of logistical changes. Another thing with the rebrand is that I knew that if I was going to do it successfully, I had to have a really strong collection. I had to kind of come out with a bang, and I wanted to be everywhere. I wanted to flood people's Instagrams. I wanted you haven't not heard about this rebrand. That was the only way that I knew that it was going to be a success. And I actually worked with Lux & Co., which is a branding agency kind of born from Sheer Lux, and they were amazing. And I needed them because we have such a small team. There's 3 of us in the office. And we needed someone to carry that sort of the campaign look and the logo, so that we could just sort of from March, well, actually it started before March, but we were just every day, it was piece collection. We put so much thought into every single piece, the color, and it all came together really nicely in September. But gosh, it was nerve-wracking when it happened. Like even just changing the Instagram, making sure you get the Instagram name. It's just all like, there's so a lot of logistics. Yeah.
And it's expensive. Let's be honest. You know, it was a big investment for the brand, but you did achieve that. It was everywhere. And as I said, you heralded the brand into a whole new dimension. We are wearing the brand today for anyone watching at home, and you have taken the actual product into a new place. Yeah. What's amazing about it is, which you can't really experience until you wear the brand, but you have given so much attention to detail to the look, but it's the feel. When I wear de Savary, I feel like an empowered woman. Yeah. How have you achieved that?
I think, well, that's just years of learning what our customer wants and making sure the clothes fit really well. It's always been easier with our coats. I mean, I had a few brands and they've not been all successes, but I used to do dresses and tight fitting clothes on women. It was an absolute nightmare. But I basically, when you put on a de Savary coat, I want you to feel like that's the only thing you need to wear. You could wear a black outfit underneath and you've got your outfit. And it's the small details, like the shoulders are really important to us, having them like oversized and structured, but not too big, and the materials, and also just the longevity of the product's really important to us. I mean, I want my daughters to be wearing my leather trench coat, you know, when they're older, and I want those pieces to last a lifetime.
Let's talk about your CEO superpower and something you just touched on, which is past. I mean, I don't want to call them failures; they're learnings because they brought you where you are today. But how have you had to be tenacious in your career and in this experience with de Savary to get to where you are today? Because to have a brand that's lasted 10 years is exceptionally rare. As you well know, I'm sure, you know, most brands don't make it past year 3. Yeah. How have you done it?
I think in order to be tenacious, you just have to be so passionate, and you actually have to, it can't be a job. I mean, I spend a lot of free time looking online, looking at Vogue Runway. I've always been so interested in it. I remember at school I had magazines on my walls. I love fashion, so it's easy for me to be tenacious. I'm not going to take no for an answer because I enjoy trying to get to where I want to be, but I won't sugarcoat it. There are times when I just like, this is just miserable. Why am I doing this? Especially now I'm a mother of 2. I have difficult days where I feel like I'm pulled in a million directions. But you kind of have to sit back and remember how far you've come and those little things. I mean, in terms of tenacious, I would say I had a brand called Musa Moda, and I used to try and really follow trends with that brand. It was a summer brand. It was so exhausting, and I would buy stock to hit a trend, and the trend would change, and some of the stock would be faulty because they were from multiple factories, and then you're left with sitting stock, and you learn stuff like that, and things that don't work. And I think that's why with de Savary, it instills, these have to be forever pieces. They have to be wearable season after season, year after year. And I guess the whole process of everything I've done has just been learning what to do now.
And I guess therefore the customers collecting pieces as they go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when we started Jane and Tash, and when we started doing leather jackets, it was Parkers or leather jackets. And we had this thing where it bothered me because I felt like we were like a one-time purchase company. We couldn't keep the customer on board, and I don't blame them. Why would they want to follow it? They've already got their Parker. And one of my goals for a long time is I want it to be like your go-to. So this is the suit we've just brought out. We did it in white. in September, and now we brought it out in burgundy. But we have a lot of customers. They've bought the leather jacket. They've now bought the trench. They've bought a bomber. They're buying the suit. That is the whole goal. It's like we're here to cater for every outerwear need, just not your leather jackets.
Something that you talk about a lot, which is incredible, is your customer, but also you have built an incredible community. Those are obviously the buzzwords of the day.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, everyone wants a meaningful community. But it feels to me that you've authentically listened to your customer as you've gone along the years, and you see them as your community. How have you nurtured that community, not just of customers, but you have the most loyal influencer community.
Yeah.
You know, every season I see the same influencers posting about you, and in a really loving way. You know, they're not just posting the brand, they're really heroing you. How have you built that community on top of everything else that you're doing?
I think that is like one of our strongest parts of the brand. I didn't begin the brand with a lot of money or a lot of investment. Everything was on a shoestring. And it's funny because some of the influencers that I worked with from day one, when they would, you know, and now they had like maybe 1,000 followers at the time, that they're now huge. So there's obviously that longevity of a relationship, and always just, you know, I guess not being kind, but just always just being there for when they want to wear something, or just I've always gone over and above to make sure that if they wanted something or if they wanted to do something, we could do it. And yeah, we're just really lucky. I think also the customer service we put out, I mean, if you're an influencer and you wear a jacket and then you have bad customer service, the customer tends to go to the influencer. I'm aware of that. And we've always put out really strong customer service. Our girls in the office go above and beyond with people.
I mean, the product arrives basically as quickly as an Amazon package.
And that's something we've really worked on this year. We've got a fulfillment center and it's super quick. But I think it's just the way you behave as a brand and you communicate with your customers. We're always asking people on Instagram. We're always taking the feedback on board, and I think that's really important.
Something that our CEO Yourself community loves to hear is the realities behind the brand. You know, people really peeling back the facade of perfection. What have been some really difficult challenges you've had to overcome throughout the years where you've had to practice tenacity?
Yeah, I think when I started, I had it's funny to think about now, but I would buy stock of products that I thought were good, and they would arrive and they'd have like key things missing. And then I remember actually in lockdown, this is quite a good story. So I had a brand called Musa Moda, and that was the trend thing. And I just had this sample land on my sort of desk at home just at the start of lockdown. It was a pastel tie-dye tracksuit. I mean, I couldn't give one away now. But I was like, this is quite cool, quite interesting. It was when tie-dye was becoming a thing. And I messaged one of my class, she's a friend, and she's also an amazing influencer. And I said, can I send this to you and I'll give you 15% of whatever we take? Thinking, let's just give us a whirl. I mean, no one's got anything to do anyways, it's lockdown. And she didn't even do a post. She didn't Insta story. And I took a picture, which was so embarrassing, outside my house, wearing this pastel tie-dye tracksuit, put it on our website. We sold thousands.
No way.
It was crazy. And then so it was on pre-order. So I didn't expect that. And I was like, oh my God, I've only ever had one piece from this factory. So like, I hope this works. So I was like on the phone to my factory the whole time. And anyways, pre-order, I remember I was working remotely with my assistant who was somewhere else. Our house was like a factory. My husband was packing, my neighbor was packing, everything. But the first 50 came first 100 came without the drawstrings in. And I was like, oh my God, I have like all these people waiting for pre-orders and the product's just not there. So, I mean, that I guess that scared me a lot. And I'm probably not so reckless with pre-orders now, and not like lack of communication, but it all worked out well. But I guess that was tenacity, because I literally that day I wanted to hide in a hole and change my identity.
But I guess you overcome these hurdles, and as I said, they're never, you know, mistakes.
Yeah.
They're learnings.
Exactly.
They're never
yeah.
failures.
Yeah.
Let's talk about motherhood and how you've navigated being a mother of two and building this incredibly successful brand. How have you done it? And what is your advice to mothers and new mothers like me out there as to how to navigate this, you know, this word balance that everyone's kind of pursuing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not very good at the balance word. I feel like I'm pulled in a million directions on a daily basis. It is a struggle. I work a lot on the go now. I mean, I have a really amazing team in the office, but I'm always working. I wake up, I'm thinking about the brand. Working on the weekends. I'm working at every pocket I can, but my priority is my little girls. They're 2 and 4, and I know from my 4-year-old how quickly that time goes. So I guess just like making that time matter when you're working and making that time matter when you're with your kids, and trying to, I mean, I used to be really bad where I was like checking an email and then like trying to do something with Gigi or whatever. And now I'm like, no, put the phone down. This is my time with my kids. And then when I'm at work, that's when they're doing something and I am like fully focused. I had a time in 2023 where I used to probably work a lot more and like just all over the place. And then I had a terrible time with my daughter who was 8 months old, and she unexpectedly became very sick and was in sort of a coma for 6 weeks and went 3 different ICUs, ended up in Great Ormond Street, and we nearly lost her 3 times. Oh my God. They like pulled us in 3 times to say, this is the time when you need to come and see her.
Oh, wow.
And she is a fighter, and that she is a tenacious little girl. She fought and she's made a full recovery. And when I came out of that, obviously my world had been turned upside down, and I didn't work during it. And my team in the office, they launched our autumn winter collection then. But there were moments when I like sat in the hospital room and I was like looking at the photos of the recent shoot. And I feel like that was quite a key moment, because I was like, life is so unexpected and short, and if you're going to do something, you really have got to love it. And I sat in the corner, and even just looking at the photos of the new products, it was like an escapism for me at that time. And I came out of that and I said, I've got to just love this and do it with a smile on my face and not moan about it. And that's what I've done, and I have learned to just love it, try and love it all, and just accept that you have hardships with the success.
What an incredibly harrowing experience.
Yeah.
I'm so relieved she's okay.
Yeah.
It's every parent's worst nightmare to even hear a story like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it changed your perspective immensely as to also the weight that the work carries, no?
Yeah. And also don't sweat the small stuff. Like, if it's not going to matter in a year's time, why are we worrying about it now? I used to get so stressed out with like an upset customer or a disappointed customer, and it would really, I would not sleep that night. I would be like, how do we fix this? And it would really take it on board. But I have learned to have a thicker skin now and just be quite, we'll deal with it and it will get dealt with, whether it's today or tomorrow or a few days time, and don't sort of let it ruin your day. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Do you have any kind of practical tips for the listener around tenacity? I know it's a tough one, but do you have any ideas around what tenacity means to you on a day-to-day basis, or, you know, when you've had to use it, what that's looked like?
I think like having a very practical view on life and work, that things are going to go wrong and you just have to be sort of prepared that they're problems that you're going to solve. And also just setting yourself up, if you can, that you're better prepared when things do go wrong. Like, for example, with my business, I've always tested a product. I've done it on pre-order, because I've not got myself into the position where I've ordered loads of stock on one thing and then people don't like it or people want to change it. Because I've had to use tenacity in times when I have previously ordered lots of stuff, then no one wants it, and that's like, you're with a brand, or a clothing brand, your profit sits in your stock essentially. Yeah, I think setting yourself up so the sort of problems are easier to solve when you get to them. And also, just like I said, you've got to love what you're doing, otherwise you will want to give up. Like, I had an Amazon business, which was like I turned Muse and Moda into when I didn't want to do it anymore. And because me and my husband had like read this thing on holiday that these Amazon businesses were doing amazing, and I had like a team in a different country running it, and I just couldn't get into it. It was like it was a product that I was just so uninterested in. I wouldn't want to sit for hours and like try and look through it or anything like that. I just could not be bothered. Whereas with my brand, I love it. I love the product. I would happily sit for hours or days trying to get the product right, and sometimes it doesn't go right, and the samples we've made which people have never seen, and in my head they were perfect, but in reality they're not going to work. So you just have to get back up and do the next one.
For the person listening who has a brand, how have you made the waitlist strategy work? Because in this day and age, people want things, like I said, you know, Amazon next day. How have you made that work? Is it only working now that you have such a loyal and engaged community that they're willing?
Yeah, it's interesting because, first of all, I guess waitlist and pre-order are similar. I did pre-order because I had to. I couldn't afford to do the stock. Like when we started de Savary London, as it was Jane and Tash, I didn't actually go into it thinking it was going to be a brand. I was still working full time, and my business partner and I at the time, we bought some parkas, and we'd found this factory where you could choose the shell, you could choose the line, and you can basically put it together. And we started doing these pop-up parties on the mum circuit in Surrey, and we would basically say to these ladies that we'd have 5 sample parkas, and we would say, if you sell 5 parkas, we'll give you a free parka. And these mums were just like, they just loved the fact they were going to get a free coat. So they were hosting these parties, and we were going round, and so we would take the payment, and then we would order the parka, and they would come in 3 weeks' time. And then that's how it kind of got going as a business on a small sort of setup cost. And but moving forward to now with the waitlist thing, I've always wanted to know that, like, how do those brands get like such a buzz? It's such a special thing that people would want to be on. And I kind of fell into it this time because when we did the rebrand and the campaign shoot with Lux & Co, the photos were so strong, and the product like is really, really strong this year. So we put a waitlist on the website as Jane and Tash before the week later we announced the rebrand. And I was really worried about the suede trench coat because I was like, this is good, you know, 200, 300 pounds more than our customers normally spending. And I could not believe it when people were signing. So many people signed up on the wait list. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I think the waitlist thing is just, you just got to put out really strong content and a really strong product, and people will share and listen. Like as soon as we got those photos on our Instagram, the videos, it was just like that week was just getting shared so much. And I think it's what you put out there. People are there waiting to see it, but the quality of what you put out there is what makes the waitlist thing work.
Comes back to having an amazing product.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you have any practical advice for the listener that you've learned along the way that you wish you'd known sooner about how you run your business, how you're efficient?
I think the people that are in your business are really important, and having a good, happy office, happy culture, just always being your best self to those people and trying to understand what they might be going through at the same time. My staff in the office, which is my team, I don't like to see them as say staff, they are amazing, and they have carried the brand sometimes through times like when my daughter was in hospital where I couldn't be there. So I think having a really strong team around you, and also I would say the people you surround yourself with, not in business but outside of business. I could not have got through the last 10 years without my circle of friends who are in similar situations. I mean, I have one friend who is amazing. She's a mum of two, the same age as me, and has a hair business, and they are going through like quite big growth at the moment, and we're daily like support system. It's hard with two young kids and building a brand, but I think that's the people.
Which is one of the fundamentals of CEO Yourself. Is it's extraordinary what women can do when they support each other and they build each other up and they back each other. So maybe that's your ultimate resource, is finding another woman who can hero you.
Exactly, a partner in crime.
Amazing. So Tash, we always close with the same question, which is, what is your legacy piece of advice? And that means the piece of advice that you'd want to be remembered by. Is there a quote or? Oh yeah,
actually I have a quote. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will, which is basically just, you've just got to do it. Obviously do the research, make sure it's obviously not completely a jump in the dark. But if you're not going to take those risks, you're not going to get the chance of having the reward.
Amazing. And where can the listener find you and the brand?
So you can find De Savary London on @DeSavaryLondon on Instagram and TikTok, and www.desavarylondon.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Tash de Savary.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your
story. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. Giving us a moment of your time to like, rate, or follow CEO Yourself will make a huge difference to our future.